Good evening, and let's start learning a little bit. If the music in the background is bothering me, I want a little music because this is a serious topic, and we are going to learn some Talmud regarding the situation we find ourselves as a nation. And I want to lay down a couple of foundations over here, or I don't know if foundations is the right word. I want to lay down a couple of rules, or a couple of I don't know what the right word for it is, but I want to set a couple of guidelines here as we proceed with this class. I'm not here to give political commentary. I'm not even here to give social commentary, meaning that everybody that's going to tune into this class has heard and seen hours and hours of discussion of insights in terms of socially, politically, who's right and who's wrong. And it's an explosive issue, a lot of passion, and many people their minds are, strongly made up. So that's not the point of this Torah class. That's number one. Number two, I think we all agree, without any doubt, without any question, that the life of George Floyd was, the way it was taken out, is horrendous, tragic, and much more. No one, I think, disagrees with that. If you're a human being and you watched it, and I will say I did not watch it. I did not watch it because it's just too painful for me to watch these things. So I did not watch it. It's enough to have heard what happened, and it's horrifying. I think we all also agree that because people are frustrated, and we could have the discussion whether they're justifiably frustrated or they're just using it as an excuse. That's another discussion that everybody has had, that just because you're frustrated and you're angry, and even legitimately angry, does not give you the right to loot and to destroy people. That's not what we teach our kids in first grade. As the book goes, everything we learned in first grade, that's all we need to know in life. If you have a first grader and someone is angry and frustrated, and then he goes ahead and slaps somebody or tears someone else's paper apart, we don't tell him, well, you're right, I understand that you're angry, and go ahead, destroy somebody else's property in your classroom. So I think we all agree on that as well. Over here I want to more deal with perhaps get me a little bit more to the core of the issue of why this happens, how this happens, how we could heal. What is the Torah, what is God telling us through the Torah and through the Talmud in a time like this? And this is, I think, the discussion I want to have, and I will do so by actually learning. I have here on my screen a Gemara, a piece of Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin, so you'll bear with me, and I'm going to read some sections of the Talmud. And I think that the Talmudic insight over here, or the Talmudic statement and subsequent statements, as you'll bear with me, very much address the issue that we're dealing with from various fronts, and perhaps we could tie it all together. And I learned this piece of Talmud years ago, but it's sort of what's going on triggered in my brain, my memory, and I decided to look at it again with some of the commentaries, and I realized that it could really be applied to what we're going through. So bear with me as I first read the Talmud in Hebrew, or Aramaic in its original language, translate, and elaborate and discuss. So the Talmud begins as it elaborates a statement in the Mishnah. The Talmud begins like this: Lefichach, therefore. And it continues, Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Adam Yechidi Nivra, man was created as one. Alone, it could also be translated alone. But here, I believe it means he was created as one. God did not create multiple human beings. Animals, God created from the very beginning. He created usually male, female. But with Adam, he created one individual, unlike the rest of all of animal life. The question is why? The question is why. And the Talmud gives various answers. And these various answers give us some insight over here. Why? Favus, why? So the Talmud says, Shelo yehei haminim oimrim. The minim, the heretics, should not say, Harbe reshuyot bashamayim. There are many masters, there are many sort of people in charge, there are many authorities in heaven. So, therefore, man was created as one to teach us that there is only one God. If there would have been many men, you might have said that each God created another man. That's one explanation. Davar achar, the Talmud continues, another explanation why God created one man. Shelo yehu tzadikim oimrim, the righteous people should not say, Anu b'nei tzadik, we are the offspring of the righteous one, of the men that God created. V'rashoyim oimrim, and the wicked say, Anu b'nei rasha. We are the children, descendants of the rasha, of the wicked one. And as Rashi, the famous commentary, the famous French commentary, like the Uber commentary says, that the righteous one would say, we are righteous, and therefore we don't even have to be concerned and be careful and on guard, because we come from righteous, we come from holy, and we're good to go. And the wicked will say, there's no point in us doing repenting or trying to fix our ways or go onto the straight path, because we are offsprings of the wicked one, and therefore there's nothing for us to do. So this is one part of the Talmud. Maybe you could sense where I'm heading with this, but let's go a little further and hear what the Talmud says. Davar achar. So, let's go a little further. Davar achar. Another explanation, says the Talmud. Mipnei hamishpachos, because of the families. What does that mean? Shelo yiyu mishpachos misgarei zu bezu. That families should not quarrel with one another. And the Talmud continues. Ma achshav shenivra yochid. Even now, when man was created as one, we have one ancestor to all of mankind. Misgarais, they still quarrel, and there is tension, and there is division. Shnayim, if there would be two ancestors, if we would come from two sources, alachas kama v'kama, how much more so that there would be so much division, so much animosity. And the Talmud continues. It's all sort of in the same vein. The Talmud says, Davar achar, another explanation. Because of thievery, because of looting, because of stealing from one another. Because each one would say, if they were coming from different sources or from different parents and so on, they would not have mercy on one another. They would say that I'm deserving, and who cares about you? And they would be robbing and stealing from one another. And he says, even we were created from one ancestor, and they steal and they rob and they loot. Alachas kama v'kama, how much more so if we would come from two different origins, and one family would say, as other commentaries explain this, one family would say, you don't have a right to what you have, it all comes from our side, and therefore I have every right to take. So this is what the Talmud says, and finally, I want to tell you another piece of Talmud, and you should halt kop, we say in Yiddish. Maintain, keep in mind, remember these different statements of the Talmud, because again, we're going to bring it all together. Then the Talmud continues and says the following. The Talmud says like this. Why are the faces of men different? Men here as mankind. Why don't we all look like as one? I don't look like you, you don't look like me. Sound familiar to what we're going through? So the Talmud says, Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Lahagid Gdulosoi Shel Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to tell us the greatness of God Almighty. She'adam Tevei Kama Midbeis B'Chois Machas, when a person makes one matbeya, he makes like sort of one stamp or one form to create machinery, whatever it is. What happens? Kulon doimen zelozeh. Everyone is compared. Everybody is similar to one another. Avla Kodesh Baruch Hu, the God Almighty, went ahead and he stamped everybody with the stamp of one stamp, which is the stamp of Adam, the first of man. And nobody looks alike like the other. That was, I think, sort of statement number 4, even though within each one there's some follow-up statements. I'm going to decline. I thought I'm going to decline the call and I'm going to put it on silent, which I thought I did before I started the class. I really apologize. Okay. And then the Talmud says another statement. Gives another answer why people don't look alike. So that a person should not take someone else's spouse, should not take someone else's house, should not take someone else's goods and say it's mine. And you will not know the difference because everybody looks alike. And then finally, the Talmud says this last statement that I'm going to focus on, and then again we're going to bring it together. Because I think that this Talmud deals with the core issues, the core issue of what our nation is going through. And if we listen to what the Talmud says and we take it to heart, I think a lot of healing and a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, a lot of self-reflection and improvement can come from this, as we shall see soon. Tan Rabbana, now the Talmud continues, stay with me. Odom Nivra Be'erev Shabbos, man was created on Erev Shabbat, on the 6th day of creation. Why was he not created on the first day of creation? If man is the purpose of creation to elevate and refine and bring the world to its purpose, to its reason for existence, by making it a better world and making it a kinder world and making it a world that's conscious of God and the creator of the world. Why was he created on Erev Shabbat? Why wasn't he created on the first day? Why created on the 6th day right before the Shabbat? Mipnei, he says, the Talmud, this is a little similar to the first statement that we learned, so that heretics shouldn't say that God Almighty had a shutav, had a partner in Maaseh Bereshis. If man was created on the first day, then heretics could say that man was a partner with God in all of creation, in the sense that he co-created. Man can sometimes become arrogant enough, or people can become arrogant, can become misled to think that man is godlike, that he also created the world, but man cannot create. Only God can create something from nothing. So that's why he created him at the end. And finally, this is the last statement I think I'm going to focus on. I think. Davar achar, another explanation. Shem tazuach dai toyalav, if he becomes too arrogant, Eimer loi, we will say to him, Yitush kadamach, even a gnat. Some translate this Yitush, some sort of insect, a flying insect. So amaloi Yitush kadamach, that even a Yitush, even a, we'll translate a gnat, came before you. So don't be too arrogant. Davar achar, another explanation why he was created right before the last. So man should immediately, as he's born, what's the first thing he has to do is do a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Shabbat. the holy Shabbat, the beautiful Shabbat. How does this? What's going on over here? So Villach Zog, and I want to tell you like this. These are my thoughts. These are my thoughts. And I pray and I hope with Hashem, because when you say things in public, my friends on Facebook, it's recorded. And you want to say the right thing, and people, there's a lot of raw emotions. People have opinions. And you hope that you say say things that should say things, the right things, that they are inspiring rather than hurtful, etc. So therefore I want to say like this. The Gemara tells us, the Talmud over here tells us several things. The Talmud tells us that man was created alone, so that you don't think there are many gods. There's one God. Man was created as one, so we know we all have one father, one ancestor. The righteous should not think that they're secure. The wicked should not think there's no hope for them. The core of the issue over here is the core of the issue. Of course, there are what we might call socio-economic issues. There is issues of how a person is raised, where he could cruelly snuff out the life of a person, where people could roam the streets and loot and destroy people's lives, livelihoods, kill people, beat people up. So there's a lot of factors, but I think we have to go to the core of the issue. The core of the issue is that if we pay attention to what the Talmud says over here, which is God created Adam Yechidi. God created man as one to highlight the fact that we should always dig deep within ourselves and to our source and root and realize that we all come from Adam. We all come from one person. We all come from one dad. We all come from one mom and dad, from Chava, Eve, and Adam. The Talmud in a different place in Masechtas Sanhedrin, in Masechtas Gittin, in the Detracted Gittin, says that why he's as a statement over here, and it's all interconnected, that why was Adam created alone? To teach us shekol hama'avid nefesh achas, whoever eradicates one soul is like he eradicated an entire world, because from Adam the entire world came. The value of one life. How do you learn to appreciate the value of one life? Is when you meditate on what the Talmud tells us over here. We come from one God. We come from one source. And at the same time, the Talmud says something very, very beautiful. The Talmud says, you know what? There's a reason why God made us all different. It highlights the greatness of God, number one, it highlights the greatness of God, that we could all come from one source, and yet you have billions and over the billions and billions of people that all look different. And at a deeper level, that means they are different. The Talmud says the following statement: Kishem she'ein partzufaisein shavais, kach ein deoisein shavais. Just like their faces are not alike, so their opinions are not alike. And as one of the Getter Rebbes once answered, just like you generally don't get offended because somebody else has a face that looks different than yours, do not get offended and do not stamp out someone else's opinion if it's not your opinion. Freedom of speech is a foundation in this country, and it's a foundation of brothers, people coming from one source, from one father and mother, from Adam and Eve. I want to say that that's what the Talmud says, that the tzaddikim and the rishayim, that the righteous and the wicked should not say there's no hope for me. And this one says, I'm on a path which I have nothing to be worried about. The Talmud uses this as an example, but it means generally in society there are people that think they're better than everybody. They think that they have no weakness, they have no faults, they have nothing to self-improve, nothing to or to go through any type of introspection. If man would be created from two men or two men and women, meaning they would come from different sources, they could maybe perhaps come to the conclusion, I'm the righteous one, I'm on a sure path, I'm the better one, I'm the wealthier one, whatever it might be. And the Rasha might look down at himself. Often a lot of this strife comes from the lack of inner respect. The Talmud says we were all created from Adam. Whether you are righteous, you're not righteous, you're better, you're more talented. I mean, the Talmud says that families, race. I mean, that's. As soon as we hear that word, it's such a divisive word. Comes the Talmud and says, you might be of this race, you might be of that race, but there's a deeper source to who we are. There's a more inner core. Yes, this one might be from Asia. This might be from the Far East, or whatever it is. This one might be white, this one might be black, this one might be colored, this one might be of this religion, of that religion, and it's all beautiful. Aim parts of it, their faces are not alike. And not only that, the beauty of mankind, that's what the Talmud is also saying. The reason why God created us with so many different faces, because that's what makes mankind so beautiful and attractive. Otherwise it's uniform and everybody says we'll go and take everybody else's things, which means is there will be nothing to differentiate one from another. What beauty is there in that? The beauty of mankind, the way God wanted, is that there should be differences, and we have differences of opinion, and we have different heritages, and we have different approaches to things. That's the way God wanted it, as the Talmud tells us over here. But don't become arrogant, which is why we were created last. Because man, because he's so capable, and because we have such responsibility, because we are the reason why God, the whole world, it says, was created, so that, and then man was created to elevate and uplift and give proper direction to the world. And that could be misused. Only man has freedom of choice, as God does. Nothing else in the universe has freedom of choice. You have to remain humble. So therefore the Talmud tells us, this is the core issue over here. This is how I will conclude, so as not to drag out this discussion. And you're welcome to ask questions and give me your feedback and so on. But basically, to sum it up, the Talmud is saying like this: we all come from one source. The more we think about that, the more we think about it when we look at another human being that seemingly is different, you know what you have to see when you see a human being that's different from you? You have to look at it as a reflection of God's greatness and God's beauty. That's why He created a human being that's different from you. Why? You want everybody to be like you? That's why you were created last, so don't get too arrogant. You're not Mr. Perfect. And if the world was created and there was only you, what kind of world would that be? So, this is what the Talmud is telling us. We all come from one source. We should remember that when we approach another human being. Come from one source. And we should know that we all come from one source, and therefore the Talmud says, don't steal from each other. You're all children of one man. What are you stealing? You all have the same right. Don't steal from somebody else. You worked for it. It's yours. It's yours. You didn't work for it. It's not yours. It's not yours. Doesn't belong to you. Don't ever, God forbid, even come close of thinking that somebody else's life is not worth it, even though it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't amount to murder in this literal sense, but there's murder in the psychological sense. You're totally dismissive of that person, that person doesn't exist. You sort of killed him. He doesn't have any right to exist. Excuse me? He is a child of Adam, just like you. Respect him, cherish him. I know there's exceptions to this. Obviously, when you meet a person who is very cruel or a criminal and so on, you got self-defense. All that is true. I'm not being naive over here, but I'm talking about the core issue of how you look at a person, how you look at someone who is different than you, from a different race, from a different group. That's the core of the Talmudic discussion. And this is almost like I'm pleading with myself and with you. As we are in this time, it is so easy today with social media to further the flames, to highlight our differences and to stoke the flames and so on. Let's each one of us be an agent for good, and to respect and to value it and understand one another based on, again, what the Talmud tells us, that where we come from with one God. I'm getting a little repetitive, but this is an important point, and I want to share that. And please share it with others. And I'm welcome. I would love to hear your feedback. I got a lot of feedback on the class, Unorthodox, with some suggestions. And people told me, Rabbi, you have to see the series to give some further comment, which I will do, God willing. But, that's a different subject, somewhat lighter. This is a serious subject. And let's take it to heart. Share these words of Torah. Hopefully it inspires one person at a time to look at another human being in a much better light. How the person is at their core, how you are at your core. Thank you for listening. Please share. And sei gesund. Have a great Shabbat, a great weekend.